If you stand at the edge of an Australian billabong at dusk, it's easy to see how the landscape plays tricks on the mind. The murky water and dense fog hide the bottom. For thousands of years, these waterways have been home to stories of a massive, terrifying creature lurking just below the surface. Long before European ships reached the continent, the Wemba-Wemba and Wergaia people spoke of the Bunyip. In Aboriginal mythology, the Bunyip an ancient, shape-shifting water spirit that haunts the swamps, riverbeds, and deep waterholes. The creature had a highly specific ecological function. It acted as a strict guardian of the waterways. If someone took more than their fair share of fish, or if children wandered too close to dangerous currents, the Bunyip was said to emerge and drag them under. For indigenous populations, these stories were highly practical tools. The spirit enforced resource management and kept people safe, embedding a necessary respect for the harsh Australian environment into daily survival. Then the British penal colonies expanded. Settlers stepped into an environment that defied everything they knew about biology. They were surrounded by hopping marsupials, egg-laying mammals, and highly venomous snakes, making the outback feel completely alien and incredibly deadly. When European colonizers spoke with local guides, they struggled to categorize what they were hearing. Listening to stories of a massive, aquatic beast with terrifying cries, the newcomers tried to map their own European understanding of flesh and blood predators onto indigenous spiritual warnings. These early colonizers were psychologically vulnerable. They were isolated at the edge of an untamed landscape. That constant underlying anxiety primed them to believe that a massive, undiscovered apex predator was waiting for them in the dark water. Operating with zero zoological context and deeply entrenched colonial anxiety, the settlers created a perfect psychological vacuum. The conditions were ideal for cryptid mass hysteria to take root. By the 1840s and 1850s, newspapers began printing a massive surge of supposed Bunyip encounters. As settlers started pushing further inland, the stories escalated from vague rumors into detailed eyewitness reports. Looking at this map, we can see exactly where the panic concentrated. The sightings clustered tightly along major inland water systems, specifically tracking up and down the banks of the Murray and Murrumbidgee rivers. But the descriptions from these witnesses were wildly contradictory. 60% of the reports detailed something resembling a dog crossed with a seal, a creature 4 to 6 feet long, covered in a shaggy dark coat, with a round bulldog-like head. Another 20% of witnesses described something entirely different. They reported a beast up to 15 feet long, featuring a thick, elongated neck, large ears, and a head that looked like an emu or a horse. Despite the conflicting details, the sheer volume of these reports, combined with their broad geographic spread and eager journalistic coverage, gave the creature a stamp of legitimacy. The Bunyip transitioned from a localized indigenous spirit into a national cryptid obsession. Some encounters were incredibly specific. In 1857, an artist named Edwin Stockelier claimed he and his mother were stalked by a Bunyip while traveling in a canoe on the Goulburn River. He even drew sketches of the beast after firing a single-barrel gun at it. The absolute peak of the hysteria happened earlier, in 1846. A squatter pulled a bizarre, unidentified physical skull out from the mud on the banks of the Murrumbidgee River. The discovery triggered a total frenzy. The skull was put on public display at the Australian Museum in Sydney for 2 days, drawing massive crowds of citizens terrified and fascinated by the tangible remains of a monster. Leading experts of the era, including renowned naturalists, took the discovery seriously. They examined the bone structure, treating it as proof of an undiscovered beast. For a brief window in history, the Murrumbidgee skull pushed the Bunyip across the line from terrifying folklore into a verified scientific reality. The scientific consensus collapsed quickly. By 1847, closer anatomical analysis revealed the true nature of the Murrumbidgee skull. Experts determined it was actually the severely deformed fetal skull of a common calf or a foal. Researchers began systematically dismantling the other sightings. Those reports of a shaggy seal dog were almost certainly southern elephant seals or leopard seals. Occasionally, these oceanic animals got lost and swam hundreds of miles inland up the Murray River, bellowing at settlers unfamiliar with marine life. As for the terrifying loud roars echoing through the swamps at night, ornithologists trace those directly to the mating call of the Australasian bittern, a shy, marsh-dwelling bird with a bizarrely deep, booming voice. This massive skeletal structure belongs to the Diprotodon, an extinct megafauna that once roamed the continent. Paleontologists suggest that the original indigenous stories of the long-necked bunyip may stem from encounters with these living prehistoric animals thousands of years ago, or from discovering their massive fossilized bones in riverbeds. Modern zoology dismantled the physical monster piece by piece. The terrifying apex predator was actually a chimera, an accidental blend of lost seals, deformed livestock bones, booming marsh birds, and deep prehistoric memory. Once the physical monster was debunked in the 1850s, the word bunyip underwent a massive semantic shift in Australian English. Because the beast had been proven false, the term became a common synonym for an imposter, a fraud, or a humbug. It even became a political weapon. The phrase bunyip aristocracy was coined to mock Australians who put on airs and pretended to be upper class. Over a century later, Prime Minister Paul Keating regularly hurled the insult at his conservative opponents to call out unearned prestige. By the late 20th century, the fearsome beast completed its devolution, appearing in children's books and television shows as a gentle, whimsical, prank-playing mascot. Science erased the physical monster, but the bunyip remains a powerful historical mirror. It reflects the deep ecological wisdom of Australia's indigenous people and the profound psychological terrors of the colonizers who stood at the edge of the dark, unknown outback.